Yeah, gotta aim for the top like, hold up. Yeah, I can never doubt myself, I know better. All of you critics be acting like you know better. Blowing the smoke, but I know when the dust settles that I'm in my element. It's evident that there's levels to the game.
So what's happening, people? Welcome back to the Athletes to Athletes podcast. And today I'm sitting down with a man that I met at the Black Sports Business Symposium, Mr. Rashad Jones-Jennings, and we're sitting at the same table and just happened to start conversing and talking about what we're into and what we do. And then we connected. And, that was probably, in today's day and age, that's kind of rare, right? You don't get too many organic conversations that you truly get out in the wild. A lot of people are meeting online and stuff like that. So it was good that, we were able to sit there, chop it up and connect. So Rashad, welcome to the show, man. Glad to have you on.
Man, I appreciate you having me, man. Like you said, we met at the Black Sports Synopsis. And once you told me what you did, and you had the Athletes to Athletes podcast, I was like, yo, we got to do something together because, I'm in real estate now. I'm an athlete. I'm trying to bridge the gap between athletes and business. So I thought it'd be a good thing for us to get together and work this out.
Yeah, man. And before we hopped on, it's good to hear you say things are growing. So always good to hear that things are going well. But like I told you, I like to start out with 5 questions. So first question for you is, what made you become an athlete, or who
What
made
made
you
me become
become
an
an athlete
athlete?
too? Either
It's
what or
funny.
who.
I would say um, being in the house with 5 women forced me to be an athlete. Like I played every sport to stay out the house. I'm talking about from track to baseball, soccer. We had a horseshoes, whatever it was to get out the house. And I played every sport year round. So, and then, as you grow older, you take a liking to it and you start getting competitive and things like that. So I would attribute that to me becoming an athlete, just
Yeah.
playing every sport, like being outside with my friends and like loving to compete.
hmm Who was one of your role models growing up as a young athlete?
Role models growing up. I mean, of course, Jordan, I mean, we idolized Jordan, even though I couldn't afford the shoes back then. But I looked up to Jordan, and I saw how he approached the game, even though I was younger. No nonsense attitude, same with Mike Tyson, back in the day when I was coming up. So, I think all the black athletes that was at the pinnacle of their game when I was coming up, I looked up to and had some, just took some from each one of them.
hmm Now, you've transitioned into business. What was something that you wanted to accomplish in business once you made a transition from athlete to businessman?
Man, that was a great question. One of my main things, and my answer is going to be a little different because I played, of course, I played professional basketball, and I was forced out due to injury. So, you know, what I told myself is I wanted to get into a second career that allowed me to make as much or more than I was making as a professional athlete. And it's not that I chose real estate. I had an uncle that used to always kind of talk to me about real estate every time I see him and just kept planting those seeds, planting those seeds. And then one day he gave me a real estate book. And I wasn't even reading books at this time. And I didn't read it at the time. It took me a couple years to read it. But once I did read it, I dove in it and I was like, man, this is what he was talking about the whole time. So those kind of instances led me to transition over into real estate.
hmm As an athlete, what's a memory, maybe a game or a play or a competitor that you'll never forget had a big lasting impact on you?
Oh man, that's an easy one. When I was in college, I got 30 rebounds in the game. I broke the NCAA Division One record for rebounds in the game. I broke the Sun Belt Conference record for rebounds in the game. So that moment was big for me, and it was crazy because I mean nobody's counting rebounds. Like when you what sport did you play? Basketball, football, or
I was football. In college, I was
okay? So
football.
like in basketball, if I'm scoring, I kind of know how many points I got. Like, not even really counting, but just knowing, like, okay, I did this, I did this. But rebounding, you really counted on those, right? So towards the end of the game, coach was like, get 26, get 27. We'll have a media timeout. He'll be like, get 28, get 29. And I didn't know what he was talking about. But he was talking about, like, get the 29th rebound, get the 30th rebound. And I'm like, all right, whatever. Like, so that was the lasting memory. And I remember, man, after the game, everybody coming up to me saying, man, you broke the record. You broke the record. All I could think about, I was pissed because I let about 3 or 4 of them get through my hand. And then, so I've just always been a competitor and just never being satisfied. But that was one of the moments that, I mean, I remember, verbatim. And, the team that I did that against, they can thank my coach that did the scout report because he hyped them up and pissed me off. So I had to take them down through there.
Now, as a businessman, we talked about, the Michael Jordan being one of the people you looked up to as a young athlete. As a businessman, who's a role model for you?
Man, as a businessman, man, I got his name right on the tip of my tongue. Played for the Bucks. He's one of the athletes. He has he sold them now. He had about 100 Wendy's and 100 Junior Bridgman.
Okay.
Junior Bridgman, that's one of the guys that I really look up to. I did a lot of studying up on him, how he was able to do it because, when Junior Bridgman was playing for the Bucks, I mean, they was probably getting $200,000, $300,000 a year. They weren't even getting like millions.
Mm-hmm.
But and another thing that I like about him, which made me respect him even more, was when he was playing with the Bucks in the summer, he would go work at Wendy's to learn the system. So he had a plan in place. And, he would go work in the summer, learn the systems, because he knew he was going to buy a franchise once he retired. I did something similar to that. When I was playing basketball, I got my real estate license while I was still playing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was taking real estate classes in the summer and the off season and when we have breaks and stuff like that, just kind of preparing. And that's what I think athletes should do more of because it's not if, it's when. It's not if you're going to retire. Nobody has ever beat Father Time yet. Now, LeBron is giving them a run for their money, but he's still 38.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Vince went till he was 42. So, it's not if, it's when. And every day you step on that court or that field, you one day closer to retirement. So, why not prepare? Because the transition is coming, whether you prepare it or not. So you might as well make it easy on yourself.
Mm-hmm. So let's dial it back a little bit and talk a little bit more sports. Growing up, was it your goal to make it to the NBA, or were you just playing sports, having fun, and recruiting started to hit you and coaches started calling, and then it became more of a goal to make it to the NBA?
Well, this is the thing, right? So I had a different story. I was a late bloomer, so to speak. So I wasn't the one that was getting all the recruits in school. I actually had no scholarship offers out of high school. I walked on at my college. I played intramurals my first year. Then I walked on my second year. I became an All-American in that second and third year. And, just progressively getting better. Just keep showing up, keep getting better, keep getting better. I remember it was days that, we would end practice, everybody go home, and I would stay after and get more weights in and shoot more shots. And I didn't even know how I was getting home. Like it was just like, I figured that out when I get to it. But I got a goal in mind, and I gotta do more than what everybody else is doing. So it wasn't. I remember I was in junior college, and like I said, I was just trying to prove myself to get on the court, let alone make it to the NBA or go get a Division I scholarship. I remember because I told you I walked on. One day, coach called me into his office. This was probably after the second game. I didn't start the first game. I didn't start the second game, but I started starting after that second game. And he called me into the office, and he basically gave me a scholarship. So now I'm on scholarship, and now I'm one of the guys. But I was already on academic scholarship,
Mm-hmm.
And then another time he called me into his office and he was like, "Well, when you get to your division," he said these words, and I didn't even know I could go Division 1. I wasn't even thinking like that. Like I said, I was just trying to get on the court. I was trying to make the team. And he was like, he said these words. He said, "When you get to your Division 1 school," and that's when it clicked in my head, like, man, I can go D1.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't always on the forefront. I was just showing up trying to prove myself, and then once I got to my 4 year, and that's when I started kind of looking at the NBA and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and then once you get to the NBA, and in a past episode, I had my brother on, and my brother and I, we're 8 years apart, but we both played college football, and I asked him something that I'd never asked before of like, what was your welcome to college football moment? You know, what was your welcome to the NBA type moment once you got there and realized the pace of the game is different. Everyone is a solid professional, and the dudes you're playing against, they're not small whatsoever. You're a big
Right.
guy. You're gonna be in the trenches with the biggins, right? So, what was
Yeah.
that moment where you were like, okay, this is where I'm at now, and I really gotta level up?
Yeah. Yeah. I would say, well, I had one initially, but it ain't on the court base. It's funny. I had a funny story about Lou Will. Um, but my welcome to the NBA moment, I would say, um, I would say the training, and I was in shape. Like my nickname in college was the Machine, but it's a different type of training. Like everything kind of got to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like everything just kind of, it's like, especially on that level, and once you get thrown in the mix, you don't want to be the one that mess up the drill. You don't want to be the one that, mess up the play and things like that. So that's what I would say, like just getting out there, and wanting to be performing at the top of the game, top of your game.
So as you're going throughout your career, and obviously you played in a number, for a number of different teams, and you played all over the world. What was that experience like? How did you take all of that in as you're traveling and playing ball? And was it a surreal moment? Was it something that you couldn't believe you went from, intramurals, junior college, all the way to being a professional?
Oh man, I take that in all the time. Even when I was playing overseas, I would consciously take the time out and think to myself like, don't take this for granted because I know where I came from. You know, it'd be times where I'd be tired, don't want to go to practice, and I'd be like, man, you was fighting for this. Ain't no you can't get tired.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? I take it in all the time. I remember I was playing in Dubai and I was on a rooftop and I was by myself and I just looked up at the stars and I was like, man, like people are actually paying me to come play. It's crazy. Like a couple years ago, people like nobody, I didn't know scholarships. I walked on an academic scholarship. And then it just shows the power of what can happen if you keep showing up and keep improving and staying committed to what you set out to do. And it's the same in business. I didn't start here. I remember my first day in the office when I retired in 2015. My first day in the office, I had my real estate license. Nobody tells you what you're supposed to do after the test. That's when the real that's when the real business starts. It's like, okay, I got my license now. What? I remember going in the office just sitting there, just waiting on somebody to throw me a bone or tell me what to do but you're an independent contractor. They didn't tell you like, oh, now you got to go find your own business. So um, yeah, man, that was some of the memories that I have. But as far as your question, yeah, man, I take it in all the time. I love adapting to the cultures. That's one of my favorite things, going to different countries because everybody does it different.
Mhm.
What we can do in Dubai is not what we can do in Mexico. It's not what we do in Europe and Asia. It's just different. But I had a great experience, and I didn't take it for granted at all. I miss it. Nothing like the camaraderie of sports, and I'm pretty sure all athletes miss it, man. It's nothing like being in that locker room. Went to war together. hopefully you won, but whether you won or lost, man, it's just something about that camaraderie.
Mhm. So you're a businessman now, and something that people don't truly equate to athletes is athletes are all businessmen, especially college sports are big business now. We've seen that,
Oh
and
yeah.
the NBA and the NFL and all these professional leagues, they're all business, right? So even though now you really equate yourself to being a businessman, you've always been that businessman. But what did you take on from a business standpoint from the league and from other players that may have been doing a lot more investing as they were playing that you use now?
So the question is what I got from sports that I use now.
Yeah.
So I would say, I mean, that's a good question. I would say tenacity, just being tenacious, going after it. Because I was a grinder. I was a rebounder, defender. You get it to me on the block, I scored. I'm trying to dunk everything I touch. I played real physical, real up in your face. Hard nosed. And that's what I bring in the business. Last night I was in the office till 1 o'clock a.m. And it's like it's kind of like for me, it's no different from when I was playing basketball. You got we got weights, we got regular practice, we got study hall, we got shoot around. And when I was playing ball, I would go back to the gym late night and work on my weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
So business is no different. I left and I came back up here because I felt like I had more stuff to get done. So those are the type of things that I transit brought over from sports into business, as well as like take watching film, for example. So I'm doing real estate development now, and what I would do, I would go sit in someone else's city council meeting that are up to try to get that development approved. For me, that's like watching film
Mm-hmm.
because now I get to see who's who on the city council board, who's the smart ass, who's what I'm saying, what they want, and now when I come, I can present it as if, oh, I already know what y'all want because I sat in on someone else's and I heard the feedback that you gave them.
Mm-hmm.
So those type of things is some of the stuff that I transition over from sports to business.
Yeah. So as a real estate developer, and you said that your uncle gave you the book and you got your license when you were still in the league. What was that first goal that you kind of checked off that let you know that you were doing the right thing, right? Everybody has a passion. Everybody gets into something that they're not too familiar with that they're passionate about, but
Mm-hmm.
it's really not until you accomplish something in that new passion that it solidifies that, I can be where my feet are. This is where my feet are supposed to be. What was
Right.
that for you?
For me, it was the mindset change because you don't know what you don't know, especially coming from where I come from. We don't walk out the house and see real estate developers. We don't walk out the house and see doctors and lawyers. Like everybody kind of in survival mode, right? So you don't know what you don't know. For me, it was route go to the league or coach, and that's like that for a lot of people. Guidance counselors trying to send you to the military. You know what I'm saying? We don't know no better. We listening to them as an authority, but we don't know what we want at that age. So I think was the mindset change once I started reading books and knowing what was possible. It's like, man, I didn't know this. Like simple stuff.
Mhm.
I read the first book I read was I said the first business book. The first book I read was a Dennis Rodman book, Bad as I Want to Be. But the first business book was Rich Dad Poor Dad, and that helped change my mindset. And it just unlocked a whole bunch of stuff that I didn't even know was out there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's incredible that, when you get into that passion and you start checking off goals, how much it solidifies that you made the right move. And
Hmm.
it sounds like, and like I said, we talked before this and you're like, man, things are growing, things are in a really good spot. What's growth to you, right? How do you measure growth in your business, and how do you explain it to essentially to your team, right, to the people that you're working with? This is what growth looks like. This is what we want to accomplish. For you, what is that growth? Because as an athlete, growth is winning, growth is getting better,
Yeah,
growth is putting in the time. But as a
right.
businessman, it's real small, it's incremental, right? How do
Yeah.
you equate that business growth?
I think growth is leveling up, not making the same mistake twice, progressing forward and carrying out the goals, carrying out the mission. We set a goal at the beginning of the year and then we carry it out. And then as we carry out those missions, we set bigger and better goals. Everybody that's on the team wins. So for me, growth is one, not making the same mistake twice, and that's progression in itself. And two, just like I said, man, just accomplishing these goals and, changing the board. Like I got a vision board in my office and, you know, I was able to change some stuff out because I accomplished what was on there, and that's growth. I'm always a visual person. Even my team, they got their vision boards up as well. And the goal is to take what's on there, accomplish it, take it off and fill it up, fill it in with new things.
Mhm. So one of the things that you mentioned is that, we said it before, is that you got your license when you were still a player. Was that transition hard for you? There's a lot of players that it's tough when you don't have a coach waking you up, or a teammate or somebody else that you have to play for, right? You have yourself, you got your family, and you got your team, essentially your business team, but it's still a lot of it is on you. There's nobody watching anymore. There's no bright lights. It's late nights in the office and not late nights in the gym, so you could do it on TV, right? It's very different. How did you make that transition, and what was it like going from basketball to business?
Well, I'm fortunate to have uh, a gene in me that I never had to have anybody push me. Even when I was in high school, nobody, like my mom was a teacher. I knew she was big on education. Nobody had to tell me to go to class. Nobody had to tell me to do my homework. I always was, I wanted to dominate I wanted to be good in everything.
Mhm.
Because in class, on the court, and in business, like I feel like domination is not one dimension. That's everything. I wanted to dominate in the weight room. When we on the track at 5 a.m. in the preseason, and coach separates the bigs and the guards because he don't want us cluttered up. The guards get a head start. The guards get a head start, and the bigs start probably a minute later, so we not bunched up. My mentality was to catch the guards. I mean, I always had that, like, nobody had to ever tell me to wake up. I never missed the 5 a.m. I mean, I just always wanted to show up and get busy.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean that's the athlete mentality that a lot of people are bringing into business now, right? Athletes are, they're stepping off the court, stepping off the field, and into business. And when they get into business, that's the mindset that they have, is that they want to dominate in their business the same way that they did on the field. And
Right.
you're seeing more of that. And like I said, we were able to connect, and and then obviously hearing you talk, it's apparent that that's the goal every single day.
Right.
So what's something, we're about to go into 2024. What's something that is on that vision board that you're looking to check off in 2024?
Man, it's funny, man. It's funny. I just had a meeting with my business coach on Monday out in San Diego, and he gave me a tall task that when I show up in Q2, I need to have $1 million in liquidity.
Hmm.
Um, that's 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 what, 90 days? 90 days? Well, we're probably about 87 days from now.
Yeah.
So that's definitely on Q2 to have $1 million liquid. That's definitely on the board. Um, and he gave me that because he knew it was possible and something I can do. And so that's one of my tall tasks. And another thing in 2024, man, just completing these developments. We've already did a lot of the grunt work. Now it's just time to build and complete them. So finishing out these developments, being on more podcasts, spreading the word to athletes with people like yourself, and just trying to plant seeds and help people out as much as I can.
Hmm. So what's something, and like I said, I always like to get a piece of advice before we end everything. And you say that, you want athletes to dive more into business, and business is where it's at for athletes, especially athletes, that are making tons and tons of money. You got to make some investment, you got to make some business moves. What's
Hmm.
your advice for these athletes who are looking to make that transition from athlete to businessman, and what would you say you've learned throughout your process that would be beneficial to them?
Don't invest in anything you don't understand. And I'll tell you, I had two of my worst investments were the two investments that I didn't understand. I had a barbershop. I don't cut hair. I had a truck. I don't drive trucks. And it was just too many moving parts. The truck is gonna break down fresh off the lot, whether no matter what condition it's in, it's gonna break down. And then two, the driver, he's sick, he got COVID, he got surgery, like it's just too many factors working against you. So that's what I'll say initially is don't invest in anything that you don't understand. And two, make sure that you read, what's my exposure? What's my return? What's the risk? How can I lose my money? How am I protected? Send it to your attorney. Send it to two different attorneys and see see what they saying on both sides. You got to protect yourself because I'll tell you what, that money you spend on the front end doing your due diligence is a drop in the bucket of what can happen when you lose your entire investment. So, don't do anything quick. Make sure you're investing with somebody who knows what they're doing, not just, hey, my brother got an idea, or my dad, or my sister got an idea for a hair salon. Man, all these people passionate. Will they show up when they get hard? Like, are they gonna throw in the towel when they get hard? And because they playing with your money, so how invested are they? I mean, those are some of the things that I would say, man. Make sure you understand it. Make sure you do your due diligence, and I think you'll be protected if you follow those steps.
Yeah. So before I let you go, I want to kind of give you the floor to let everybody know what the business is called, where they can find you, social media platforms, stuff like that. So the floor is yours, man. Let us know where they can find you.
Yeah, man, y'all see it, man. I'm always branded, man. Post Pro Capital, we're real estate development, private equity firm. You can find me on Instagram, postpro_Shazilla, LinkedIn, Rashad Jones-Jennings, Facebook. My company's on all these platforms as well. And definitely, man, follow me, reach out. I try to educate along the way. I got about 650 videos on YouTube, and that's at Shazilla. So even when I'm doing these developments, I like to document my process. So, once we get start breaking ground on this next development that I have planned behind me, I'll take you through it step by step. We out there every day, and I got my videographer with me, and we explaining different things along the way. So, as I'm going through my process, I like to educate people as well.
That's awesome, man. Well, I hope you continue to grow. I really appreciate that we had a chance to get on here and talk about the business and check in.
Yeah.
So always good seeing you grow, man. I appreciate you taking some time out to come on and discuss your goals and your expertise and your journey. Most of all, I like I said, when we met, I could tell you were a passionate dude that was really trying to get things going even more so than what they already were. And it seems like that's exactly what's happening, man. So I appreciate you coming on, and, it's good to hear that things are going well.
Man, I appreciate you, Ryan. I appreciate you having me on, and hey, much success to your podcast moving forward.